Tonight, 5 confirmed cases of Hantavirus and at least 6 people in hospital as scientists race to find the potentially infected. The luxury ship will dock in Tenerife this weekend with strict protocols in place to prevent passengers making contact with residents.
I really don't get why Spain allowed them to come in, but they are human beings too.
I'm really angry with the situation.
And after concerns from local leaders were overruled, the World Health Organization insists this is not the start of a pandemic.
This is not COVID. This is not influenza. It spreads very differently.
It will be an international undertaking to track 140 people as they return home to their families. We'll hear more about the plans to keep communities safe. Plus,
so what you're seeing is tankers that would previously have been going to the Middle East, to the Gulf, they're now coming here to the US.
America's 21st century oil boom. Ed Conway asks if the US could be the answer to the global oil shortage. Moscow on edge, why the Kremlin is shutting down the internet and scaling back its victory parade. And papal diplomacy. Did Marco Rubio smooth things over between Donald Trump and the Pope? Find out coming up on The World with me, Barbara Serra. Good evening. If there's one thing the world's best infectious disease scientists want you to take away from their now daily briefings, it's this.
This is not COVID. This is not influenza. It spreads very differently.
While this is a serious incident, WHO assesses the public health risk as low.
Unlike something like COVID or flu, this is not a worry for the wider community.
Well, that's the message that we heard over and over today. The experts say we're not in the early throes of a pandemic. But this ship, currently heading towards the Canary Islands, brings with it all the dark memories from 6 years ago. And then there's the fact that several passengers have already disembarked and returned to their families, and that it could take 6 weeks for hantavirus symptoms to appear. Now, words like contact tracing and self-isolation are back in our vocabulary. So what happens next? And why do epidemiologists believe the public health risk is minimal? We'll get into that coming up after this report from our correspondent Sadia Chowdhury, who's in Tenerife.
This sleepy dock on the south coast of Tenerife is about to get really busy. By the end of the weekend, expect to see a flurry of activity as the hantavirus-stricken cruise ship, the MV Hondius, arrives. It's making the locals nervous.
I really don't get why Spain allowed them to come in, but they are human beings too, so they need treatment and somebody to take care of them.
I'm really angry with the situation in Spain as always, because we always need to get everything here, doesn't matter the consequences.
A little bit scared, a little bit, yeah.
There's also a lot of opposition from the port workers here. They've expressed their anger of what they say is a lack of information around the transfer, and they've threatened to block the ship's entry. That could prove to be another obstacle. To keep the locals happy, but mainly to keep everyone on and off board safe, passengers and crew will need to be moved carefully off the ship. That is a challenge for the Spanish civil defence.
The evaluations will be carried out from the moment when we see that asymptomatic people are ready to be evacuated from our country. There will be a quick process. They will not leave the boat until the plane is there to take them to their countries. Once they leave the boat, they will be taken by road. It's about 10 minutes drive. This route will be provided by the shipping company, but under the supervision of the Spanish government.
With several hospitalizations already, the World Health Organization offered this reassurance.
This is not the start of a COVID pandemic. This is an outbreak that we see on a ship. This is not the same situation we were in 6 years ago. It doesn't spread the same way like coronaviruses do. It's very different. It's that close, intimate contact that we've seen. And most hantaviruses don't transmit between people at all.
For this Dutch family on holiday here, the arrival of the ship carrying their home country's flag is not a concern.
I actually heard that one of the patients has been to my hometown, has shipped to my hometown.
but I wasn't very concerned about it. Yeah, I think they will handle it quite well.
Hantavirus has already disrupted the cruise ship's journey, and as it approaches its final stop, things are still far from smooth sailing.
Well, Sadia joins us live now from Tenerife. And Sadia, the ship is expected to dock on Sunday afternoon. We were just hearing in your report about how passengers would be evacuated. But the locals in Tenerife, they're still worried, aren't they?
Yeah, this might not be the start of a pandemic, but it's those dark memories from 6 years ago that you referenced in your intro there, Barbara, that people here are really worried about. What they don't want to see is what we're seeing in other countries, contact tracing, people being asked to self-isolate, even hospitalizations. And remember, this place relies a lot on tourism, and they don't want anything that will deter people who are thinking of visiting here. They don't want to see businesses affected. They don't want to see those sort of COVID-type lockdowns. The Spanish government has, as you saw in that report, really promised that there won't be any contact between the passengers coming off the ship and the local population. That would do very little to allay the fears of these people if in the next few days leading up to Sunday we see any more infections, we see that number rising, we see any of those symptoms becoming worse amongst people. I think that is the real concern over the next few days. So for the Spanish government, the challenge is twofold. One is the operation, which is due to begin on Sunday. When that ship arrives, all of those passengers going to all different parts of the world, a very delicate and careful operation that they have to do. The second is to get the local population on board. That's the wrong word. To get them cooperating, to get them in agreement with everything that they're doing.
Sadia Chowdhury with the latest there from Tenerife for the moment. Sadia, thank you. So what do we know about the number of cases of hantavirus? Well, the ship's operator says 30 people disembarked on the island of St. Helena in the South Atlantic on the 24th of April. Today, 3 people are in hospital in the Netherlands. These include a Dutch crew member who has hantavirus, along with 2 other suspected cases, British expedition leader Martin Anstey and a Dutch flight attendant. A German woman suspected of having the virus is at a hospital in Düsseldorf. There is another confirmed case, this time in Switzerland, where a man is being treated at a hospital in Zurich. And a British man with the virus is being treated in Johannesburg in South Africa. Beyond this, officials are on alert in other parts of the world, with people self-isolating in the UK, France, the US and Singapore. Our Africa correspondent Yusra El-Baghir has been hearing from a senior scientist at the National Institute of Communicable Diseases who has been leading the contact tracing effort.
One of the cruise passengers died here in Johannesburg and another is being treated in a medical facility here. What's the update on his condition?
The most recent update that I had on the patient that's hospitalized here in Johannesburg is that he's clinically improving.
Were you shocked to read the result?
I read the analysis, I think, at least 3 times. So I just wanted to make sure that we did everything right and that I'm seeing what I'm seeing because I know what it means. Not shocked because we were testing for it. So you prepare yourself either for a negative or a positive result. Not excited to see a positive because you're the bearer of bad news when you start sharing that information with the people that need to know. But glad that we could make that diagnosis so that the public health responses could be put into motion quite quickly and that the patient could be managed accordingly.
Are you concerned at all?
Concerned is, let's say concerned because I have an appreciation of the extent of the efforts to contain this outbreak and the international collaboration that it will require. It's a complex response. And that requires collaboration across many nationalities, different countries, different stakeholders. The early days of the outbreak, I think, is really an example of how it should be happening. And I hope that this outbreak will be concluded in that same fashion.
Now, you might remember this ship from 6 years ago. It's the Diamond Princess, a cruise ship that was quarantined at sea for nearly 2 weeks during the coronavirus pandemic back in January 2020. Spencer Fehrenbacher was one of the passengers on board the boat. He told me he filmed a video to be sent to his parents if the worst happened.
It was an experience that I'd love to never have to repeat, and one that I think we look back on now with 2020 vision. But in that time, January 2020, we had no idea how serious or not serious this coronavirus was. And to be quarantined on a ship and to be told, don't worry, while watching ambulances and medical personnel gather by the hundreds outside of your balcony was extraordinarily concerning.
And looking back on it now, of course, years after, but even after you just ended the quarantine, at least on the ship, looking back, what were the mistakes that were made? What were the things that you think should have been done differently?
I would say that looking back, the staff were clearly put at risk. There weren't a lot of preparations given or considerations given to their health. However, the captain on that ship communicated to all the passengers that there was no reason to be concerned about the air we were breathing, and that all of the air was being piped in from outside the ship and not recirculated. However, what we have now learned since then is that that was not the case, and that there was a layer of maybe a lack of transparency, to say it that way, in what the passengers were receiving and the information we were being given.
You've spoken previously of waiting for what you called the knock of doom on the door. What was that knock for, and how did it make you feel?
It was one of the most difficult days of my life. I was part of a group of about 250 passengers identified as high risk when we were first quarantined, because I had fallen ill during the actual cruise portion of the cruise before we were quarantined, and proceeded to spend the next 3 days not knowing if my test had come back positive or negative. And the knock of doom reference was simply that third and final day, we were notified that if we were still on the ship, that was an indicator that the final tests had been processed and they were returned as negative. However, what that led to was I decided to record a literal goodbye video on our balcony and send it to my brother to forward on to my parents if the worst case scenario were to have come to fruition.
Based on your experience at the time, but also everything that we've learned since the COVID outbreak, what are you making of what's happening now around the Hantavirus, both on the ship and just in general, the global reaction to it?
I feel that there's a bit of, again, a lack of clarity, a lack of transparency about how worried should we be, how likely is this virus to mutate and spread further. And it seems that the lack of a measured response or measured degree of concern that the World Health Organization is telling us to have is causing a little bit of a lack of credibility, perhaps, in how people are receiving those messages.
The experiences and views there of a passenger who was quarantined on board the Diamond Princess back in 2020. So what mistakes were made then that could inform what health authorities do now? Well, to discuss that in more detail, I'm joined by Kentaro Iwata, an infectious disease expert at Kobe University in Japan. Sir, thank you so much for joining us here on the program. Now, back in 2020, you actually described the situation of the Diamond Princess as completely chaotic. Now, I'm just wondering how much you know about the containment measures right now on the ship Hondius and what we can learn from what happened or what should have happened back then.
Okay, I have to tell you that the situation currently occurring is quite different from what had happened in 2020. The coronavirus infection is basically human-human transmission, and the incidence is very high. Whereas the hantavirus infection, the human-human transmission is quite rare, and the mortality is very high. Usually, risk is divided into the frequency and the consequences. COVID-19 is a disease with the high frequency and low outcome, whereas the hantavirus infection has a low frequency and high mortality. So they are, I would say, opposite characteristics they have. Now, back in 2020, Japan did not have a capability of doing a lot of PCR, so most people did not know whether they had an infection or not. So there was no immediate result available. So that was very concerning to them, obviously. Also, the Japanese government focused more on the environmental disinfection, like cleaning the floors and the aisles and so on and so on, but did not focus more on prevention of human-human transmission, which should have been done a quite different way. Now, for the hantavirus infection, we do not still know the source of virus, whether this occurred in a ship or this occurred in a country where they landed. So we have to continue the investigation, but the human-human transmission is less of the concern. So the infection prevention practice is performed quite differently, I assume.
So I'm just wondering, though, I mean, I can understand what you're saying, that the two diseases are not really, obviously not the same, not really comparable. I suppose we're all coming off the back of a pandemic, so maybe that's why people are making a lot of the comparisons. But I suppose my question is about the containment measures that we are hearing about on the Honduras ship. Have you heard any more details, and what do you make of what you've been hearing, if indeed you think we do know enough details?
I do not know the details about the containment measures, and there are different ways of doing that, so shouldn't be the same. But I assume that the basic containment measurement is to wait until the people infected to be apparent. When the infected people got the symptoms, then they should be isolated. The good thing is, unlike the COVID-19, hantavirus infection is not human-human transmission infection until you get symptomatic, as far as we know. So for those people who don't have a symptom, you just have a close monitoring or contact tracing. So the containment measure will be far more easier than the one in COVID-19.
The ship is now heading for Spain, for the Canary Islands, and over the past few days we've heard some of the locals in the Canaries, especially Tenerife, be reluctant to that, and then they got overruled by Spain. I mean, you seem to be reassuring people that it's nothing like COVID. I'm just wondering whether you also think that a big part of this is how this is communicated, that the people perhaps, it's understandable that they may be hesitant and concerned, and whether you think the whole issue around this disease, or what is known, should be communicated better?
Well, I understand the concern, and I understand that people would like to have the analogy with the COVID-19 because what is happening now looks like similar to what happened in 2020. But as I said before, they are totally different. So people should understand first that they are quite different, and the people in Canary Island should not have any strong concern about the disease at this moment, because this would not be a public health issue. It is more like an individual issue. Well, hantavirus infection itself is a dangerous thing. So once it happened, it is a danger to individual who got the infection. But from the public health perspective, it is not a great danger. So you have to have the distinction between these two different risks.
What is the one thing that we don't still know or don't yet know about this disease that you would like to know? For example, how exactly the first contagion happened on this ship?
Well, I would like to know three things. One is the origin of the infection, how this happened from the beginning. The second is the transmissibility of this so-called Andes virus, which we don't know much about. The third thing is the incubation period. Still, we don't know the exact incubation period, which is the time from the beginning of the infection and the time of the occurrence of the symptoms. So if we know these things, then we would understand better about this virus.
Kentaro Iwata, infectious disease expert at Kobe University in Japan. Sir, thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us. Thank you.
My pleasure.
This is The World with me, Barbara Serra. Still to come. Israel strikes Beirut for the first time since a ceasefire was declared, reportedly killing a Hezbollah commander.
A lot of local and national seats are up for grabs.
Waiting for the people's vote on who will sit in them.
It's your chance to have a say
on who has a seat at the table. Follow Sky News as we give you the best seats in the House.
From voting
to the results,
the analysis,
and what comes next. Join us for Vote 26. Get the full story fast on Sky News. The best thing about being a Sky News journalist... My darling.
Beth Rigby, Sky News.
Is being a Sky News journalist. You said to people, I'm not coming back for more, but you have come back for more. Well, let's kick off and make a statement. What can our Prime Minister say to you to not impose tariffs? He's coming out! What more do you need?
We're trying to see as much as we can.
We're in an area that's just been reclaimed.
Mr. Zuma, Sky News.
People are directly protesting.
The whole neighborhood is rallied around her.
It's been impenetrable to journalists over the last 2 years of war in Sudan.
I've been waiting for this for 2 years. It doesn't feel like a big homecoming.
It was never going to be pretty. War isn't pretty.
What's the best thing about being a Sky News presenter?
Perfect.
Let's bring you some breaking news. Being a Sky News presenter. I began by asking,
Thank you so much.
trusting us to tell her story. The battle for number 10. Sky News has been given exclusive access. Let me give you a sneak peek. It was the day those present would never forget. Why did you decide to open up and tell your story?
Yesterday, Donald Trump hinted that a deal was close with Iran. There's been no word from Washington or Tehran since. But there has been a significant development in Lebanon, where Israel says it's killed a Hezbollah commander in a strike on the capital. Well, this was the scene as people searched through the rubble of the destroyed building looking for survivors. It's the first time Beirut has been attacked since a ceasefire took effect last month. There's also been little progress in reopening the Strait of Hormuz. No major vessels have passed through in the past 48 hours. Here's our business and economics correspondent, Paul Kelso.
This is the Operations Centre of UK Maritime Trade Operations, UKMTO. It tracks commercial shipping in contested waters around the world, off the coast of East Africa, here in the Red Sea, and critically right now in the Strait of Hormuz. We can see it here, the hazardous area boxed off. These red lines, they're effectively Iranian border control. They've told all vessels inside this zone they need to get out or face attack. And if and when those attacks are to come, this is where those ships will call. They come in on a phone number that's on the bridge of every commercial vessel. This is like 999 for cargo ships and tankers in trouble.
Can you confirm the name of the vessel again to me, please, sir? And how can I help you?
Information received here is shared with ship owners, with coalition partners, with regional search and rescue where necessary to coordinate help if required. And crucially, it is shared publicly so that other vessels can react accordingly to any danger. Now, since the war began, they've seen transits through the Strait of Hormuz come down from 130 a day, 65 or so in each direction, to just 10. And in the last 48 hours, since Donald Trump abandoned US plans to escort vessels and diplomatic progress appears to be being made, well, 0 vessels have made that transit.
We're taking calls from merchant vessels from contested waters, particularly where they feel they might be under threat of attack or they've seen something suspicious. We cover all the threats that are available in that area, so from piracy to state action to terrorist action. We're sharing verified and can be alarms going in the background, sirens, and sometimes we've even heard shots as well. So our watchkeepers are trained to keep clear and calm at all times. Until there is more certainty on how safe it is and where it is safe for their seafarers to go, they are not able to make those movements. So they're really looking for leadership and stability before they can start to recover. And we'll need to start with some kind of evacuation, humanitarian evacuation, because we've got around 20,000 seafarers who are stuck inside the straits at the moment.
With more than 800 vessels stranded on the western side of the Strait of Hormuz, even if and when the waters are safe, it will take weeks for them to clear and months before global supply lines return to normal. And here, they'll watch all that happen.
And the latest episode of the World podcast from Yalda Hakim and NBC's Richard Engel examines how Pakistan has emerged as the main mediator between Washington and Tehran. Just scan the QR code on the screen right now to listen, or find it on all our platforms. This is The World with me, Barbara Serra. Coming up next, the world is turning to the U.S. for its energy supplies. Find out why those hoping they'll increase production could be left disappointed.
I urge you not to look away. If Hamas hands the hostages over, they will end this conflict. The world has been watching.
Good to see you again. How are you?
Did she say how he was?
The conditions are awful.
The jets were ordered to come back. Historic day here today. How will you respond if India does launch airstrikes?
They will be allowed to war.
I'm just going to put some body armor on. I'm Yalda Hakim.
Now, imagine this. Nearly 2,000 ships are stranded in the Gulf, waiting to pass through the Strait of Hormuz. On board some of them, millions of barrels of crude oil. With the world's supply of oil and gas choked off, a record number of oil tankers are now heading to the U.S. to fill up. But can America ramp up production to meet demand? Our economics and data editor, Ed Conway, traveled to the world's energy capital to find out.
We timed it just right.
The thing that moves it all is your gas, right? That's your energy. That's what drives it to the wellbore.
It's always good to have the water behind the oil.
So
if it's the other way, it don't come out very good. He can show you how it'll separate.
So here's your water. Run over the bottom.
So that's water that's come from kind of 10,000 feet underground.
And then up on top, that's your oil.
That's the good stuff.
Is there any other substance in the world quite as important right now as this stuff?
Oh, he's got to get the oil on the hand, too. That's right. Hand of a working man.
Crude oil, black gold, pumped fresh from 10,000 feet under the ground here in West Texas.
It's quite fluid, it's not too viscous. So it's quite light.
It's very light, yes, sir.
This is ground zero for one of the biggest stories of the modern age, a seismic shift in global energy, with America standing to benefit from the chaos in the Persian Gulf. Midland, Texas, the capital of the Permian Basin. If there is an epicenter of the shale revolution, well, this is it. Today, the Permian Basin, an 80,000 mile square area of oil-rich shale underlying Texas and New Mexico, produces more crude than nearly every other country in the world. It is a 21st century oil boom, making new billionaires every year.
Do you think it's here?
Today, hundreds of operators, drillers, contractors and landmen work this patch.
You must be Judson. I'm Ed Conway. How are you? Thank you for having us. This is exciting.
Yeah.
Thank you.
How are you, ma'am?
Judson Bennett runs Cheval Oil and Gas. Born in neighboring Odessa, he spent his life on these lands, rodeo, ranching, and eventually oil.
I made my living ranching. That's where it all began, was ranching. That's where my passion came from, and just wanting to be a cowboy. That's me roping. I was in Lovington, New Mexico at a jackpot steer roping. And this horse was an amazing animal because you could do multiple events on him. And so I just...
what was he called?
His name was Popeye. He was little but strong.
Was he?
So, yeah, Popeye was his name.
Do you miss her?
Every day, man. I love to rope. I love to rope.
Judson's taking me to a new acquisition, a well in the scrubland just outside of Midland. Once upon a time, this was a poor, mostly agricultural region. Today, nearly every old farm has an oil plant.
I've got like 6 wells right over in here. Like that's one of my wells over there. This well right in front of us is one of my wells. We just got through working on this well.
Okay. So you can hear it whirring away.
Yes, sir.
And what this is doing is just literally pumping up oil kind of slowly but surely.
And that's what this pump jack is doing. It's just going down and allowing the rod to do the work to pull the pump up, opens it up, lets the fluid come into the pump and start filling the tubing so the tubing can start allowing the oil to migrate to the surface.
And it's just oil, is it, at this stage? Or is it oil and gas as well?
There'll be a little gas in here, but mainly oil. Yes, sir. This well is just vertical, and it's roughly 9,800 feet.
9,800 feet. So
yes, sir.
That's a lot.
Yeah,
So
almost 2 miles.
2 miles down.
Almost, yes, sir. We really thought we were cutting a fat hog 20 years ago, when you could go 10,000 feet or even 5,000 feet. Like a mile was, you were, oh my gosh, did you hear they went a mile? And now it's like, oh, so-and-so's going 5 today, you know.
Oh, really?
So it's just, that's another thing, that technology has just kept this basin alive. Not only fracking, but just in general.
Fracking is a unique technology involving long drills running deep underground, horizontally fracturing shale bedrock with sand and water, creating cracks to agitate and release natural gas and crude oil. It has helped America to an energy renaissance and transformed this landscape. There are around 1 million of these oil wells operational across America today. That's 7 times the number of retail gas stations, 70 times the number of McDonald's. To fully appreciate what that means, you need to see it from above. Surveying oil infrastructure is part of what Dan's company does. Well, that and herding cattle.
You can smell the oil from those containers.
From those holding tanks, yes, sir.
Stretching off into the horizon, an unending vista of drills and oil wells, pools of fracking water, storage tanks, the hallmarks of a mammoth energy boom. A boom dependent on a lot of effort, a lot of investment to get each barrel of oil out of the ground.
So if you look up here, there's 3 drilling rigs right there.
These are the tall drilling rigs.
So these tall ones right here, yes.
Okay, so that's your fracking. That's basically the fracking happening right there. But those drilling rigs that are standing up, that's kind of sending down sand and water, pumping it down to kind of do that hydraulic fracking, as it's known. That's what's happening. And basically, there's hundreds of these all over, aren't there?
There's hundreds of them all over.
It's hard to get your head round the sheer scale of what's happening here, because these drills and wells extend all the way across the deserts of West Texas and New Mexico. A patchwork landscape of oil rigs, like a printed circuit board, visible all the way from space. And beneath the ground, a vast network of pipelines carrying that oil out across the desert, hundreds of miles to the coast. Many of those lines end up here in Houston. They call this place the energy capital of the world. It is a major hub for oil, gas, and petrochemicals. 10 large oil refineries, more than double the total in all of Britain, a port and a deep water shipping channel that makes this one of the key gateways for all that American oil. David Brazil has spent more than 20 years monitoring the numbers on America's energy industry. He's giving me a tour of the area, but one question looms large. How much more oil can America supply to the rest of the world?
Is this whole export operation kind of running as hot as it could?
No, it is not.
Oh, really?
No.
There's more that could be pumped.
We could still pump and export more.
Exports have jumped to a record high of 6 million barrels a day in April, partly due to emergency stockpile releases. But there is still room for more.
We estimate that on the Gulf Coast we have roughly 7 million barrels a day of export capacity.
So people in Europe wondering to themselves, okay, we've got this big shortage of oil and petroleum products.
where is it going to come from? This place could be a big part of that answer.
This place could be a very big part for Europe specifically, actually.
That explains why, out on the high seas, we are witnessing a striking phenomenon. An armada of empty crude oil tankers turning west in record numbers. Some are heading for this place, Texas City, just south of Houston. Out on the seas beyond this headland are scores of tankers waiting to make their way up the channel to fill up with oil, gas, and refined products. This is the surface manifestation of an economic crisis, the desperate response to an energy shock unlike anything we've seen before.
So what you're seeing is tankers that would previously have been going to the Middle East, to the Gulf, they're now coming here to the US, because basically this is the most reliable place to get your crude oil, to get your kerosene, to get your diesel and all of those other energy products that we're not able to get from the Gulf anymore. And that's why there is this kind of armada of ships coming in and going out here at Houston, but also down the coast of Corpus Christi and Louisiana as well. It's a complete change, a shift in the global energy market.
But extracting enough oil to help fill those tankers isn't as simple as you might think. One challenge is that whenever you get oil out of the ground, you also get gas. And strange as this will sound, in this case, that's actually a problem.
They're currently producing, somewhere in the neighborhood of 22.5 BCF a day of dry natural gas, which is more than there is capacity to get out of the Permian.
A lot of people will be killing themselves for, to have that much natural gas.
That's exactly right. And they are paying people to take it away. Last week, the price got to...
They're paying people to take it from them.
Negative $9 per MMBTU.
That is crazy.
It was wild.
Wow.
And so it's actually a cap on how much you want to produce crude, because you can't do anything with the gas that's going to come out whether you like it or not.
So that's limiting their ability or willingness to pump the crude out of the ground.
Precisely.
Is there's too much gas and they don't have anywhere for that gas to go.
Yep.
So it just gets wasted. For me, from the UK, that's so frustrating. Because that presumably means we're not getting as much oil and gas as we could from America, because the pipeline's not quite there yet.
Not quite there yet.
It is almost maddening. Right now, Europe and Asia have too little gas. America has too much gas. And the pipelines that could solve that problem haven't been finished yet.
The problem is there's right now not a lot of certainty that the current high price environment is going to persist.
So what, because they think that maybe this will end and maybe, the Strait of Hormuz will be open again and that everything kind of goes back to normal?
Everything goes back to normal. We're just talking about the Strait of Hormuz. Obviously, there's the Russia angle too. What if Russia and Ukraine decide to get along, and all of a sudden you've got a bunch of Russian barrels back on the market?
Back in the Permian, they're building those gas pipelines as fast as they can, but they're not there yet. And even once that's sorted, it's not even clear the oil price is high enough to convince producers to ramp up their drilling. After all, the defining feature of fracking is that it's not just like opening a tap. It takes drilling rigs and workers and time, and that costs money, lots of it.
And what's your message, for people watching it, particularly in Europe and Asia, who I guess are kind of even more dependent than usual on what you're doing here?
So I just say, bear with us. We're going as fast as we can, boys. We're drilling and completing these wells as quick as possible. And,
can you go faster?
We could, but that's where CapEx comes in. So if somebody wants to put up a bunch of money, we can drill as fast as you want. A lot of people are really nervous about the commodity price.
So only a couple of months ago, it was kind of the oil price was basically below your break even, and now it's well above. And so it's not a given when people are making these long-term investment decisions, right?
No, it's not a given.
After the oil shocks of the 1970s, America began to obsess about energy independence. But only in the last couple of decades has it achieved it, thanks to the extraordinary story of fracking in the Permian Basin.
This crude is how old?
Millions of years old. It takes hundreds of millions of years to really start producing.
Now, in the face of another historic energy shock, it is to this place that all eyes have turned. It is to America that tankers are now heading. But those expecting the world's biggest oil producer to save them with a massive spurt of crude might be in for an unpleasant surprise.
You're watching The World with me, Barbara Serra. Coming up next, find out why Moscow's annual victory parade will be a much more modest affair this year.
A lot of local and national seats are up for grabs.
Waiting for the people's vote on who will sit in them.
It's your chance to have a say
on who has a seat at the table.
Follow Sky News as we give you the best seats in the House.
From voting
to the results,
the analysis,
and what comes next.
Join us for Vote 26.
Get the full story fast on Sky News.
Sky News has been given exclusive data showing every Palestinian who has been killed in Gaza since the war began. Our analysis of this pattern in the killings suggests that entire families were wiped out in their homes or shelters. The data and forensics team is a multi-skilled unit dedicated to providing transparent journalism from Sky News.
We located footage of the aid drop to a tent camp in central Gaza.
These airdrops are falling in extremely populated areas.
We combine traditional reporting with advanced analysis of satellite imagery, social media, and other open source information. Now, this is just one of the strikes and incidents we've been able to geolocate across Gaza.
Sky News has found Nazi speeches and marching music have been used as background sound on tens of thousands of TikTok videos as far-right groups try and spread their message.
Sky News has seen 72,000 posts used in this way. There's no evidence yet of foul play at Heathrow. It shows weaknesses that enemies could take advantage of. Elon Musk says it is, quote, a viper's nest of radical left Marxists who hate America. Supporters say it saves lives and projects American power and influence.
I think we would generally be called far right, sure.
It's called Return to the Land, and they invited me in.
A lot of people are going to be, why are you making Nazi references?
Right. Well, why wouldn't I?
Its founder says he is building a fortress for the white race.
It's a racial association. I kind of want to ask you, after seeing this, do you think what we're doing is immoral?
We followed a social media trail that led us to Bristol, where a confrontation between protesters erupted into a full-scale riot.
Here it really is pitched battle skirmishes, hurling missiles, throwing punches.
I'm Tom Cheshire, Sky's data and forensics correspondent.
The best thing about being a Sky News journalist... My darling.
Beth Rigby, Sky News.
Is being a Sky News journalist. You said to people, I'm not coming back for more, but you have come back for more. Well, let's kick off and make a statement. What can our Prime Minister say to you to not impose tariffs? He's coming out! What more do you need?
We're trying to see as much as we can.
We're in an area that's just been reclaimed.
Mr. Zuma, Sky News. People are directly protesting.
The whole neighborhood is rallied around her.
It's been impenetrable to journalists over the last 2 years of war in Sudan.
I've been waiting for this for 2 years. It doesn't feel like a big homecoming.
It was never going to be pretty. War isn't pretty.
And let me bring you some breaking news now coming into us from Iranian media. They're reporting that explosions have been heard at 2 sites in Iran, very strategic sites. The port of Keshem in the Strait of Hormuz, and Bandar Abbas, also on the Strait. Bandar Abbas, a key hub for oil exports. Now, you'll remember that Iran is currently considering a proposal from the U.S. to end the war and reopen the Strait of Hormuz. It's not clear yet who has carried out the strikes. News of the explosion coming into us from Iran's Mehr news agency. And of course, we will bring you the latest developments on that as we get them. Now, it's the annual military parade that usually sees tanks and heavy artillery rolling through Red Square. But this year, instead of projecting power, Moscow is scaling back, even shutting down the internet because of fears of a Ukrainian drone attack. Here's our Moscow correspondent, Ivor Bennett.
The Russian flag is everywhere in Moscow at the moment, and that's because the Kremlin wants people to rally around it. They're getting ready for Victory Day and the annual military parade on Red Square to celebrate the Soviet Union's defeat of Nazi Germany in 1945. It's a really big deal here, even more so since Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Vladimir Putin uses it as a means to justify his war and to unite the nation behind it. But instead of projecting power, this year's build-up has been a display of nerves and anxiety, and that's because of this. There's been an increase in Ukrainian drone attacks across Russia recently. Lots of energy infrastructure has been hit, and even a Moscow high-rise was struck just a few miles from the Kremlin at the start of this week. And that's got the authorities here rattled. They are worried their big day could be disrupted. So as a result, they've decided to scale back this year's parade. There won't be any of the usual military hardware on display. No rocket launchers, only troops, for fear of the machinery being a target. Moscow has also started issuing threats, warning diplomatic missions in Kyiv to be prepared to evacuate their staff, because if Ukraine does try to disrupt the parade, Moscow says it'll hit back with a mass strike on the Ukrainian capital. And throughout this week, they've even been switching off the mobile internet network here in Moscow. During parade rehearsals, the city centre has gone dark and been sent back to the 1990s, an enforced digital detox. Again, that's because of the threat of drones, which can use the mobile network for navigation. So it's far from the show of strength Vladimir Putin wants this event to be. The consequences of his invasion continue to come home.
Now, you'll remember the very public war of words between Donald Trump and the Pope over the war in Iran.
Is this an attempt to smooth things over with the Pope, given the rhetoric between President Trump and Pope Leo?
No, I mean, it's a trip we had planned from before, and obviously we had some stuff that happened. And
I have nothing against the Pope. I don't like it. I'm not a big fan of Pope Leo. If the Pope would allow Iran to have a nuclear weapon, you can't do that.
I think it's very, very important for the Pope to be careful when he talks about matters of theology.
There's been a certain narrative that has not been accurate in all of its aspects.
So I can disagree with the Pope. I have a right to disagree. I have a right to disagree with the Pope.
The President of the United States made some comments about myself.
The Pope would rather talk about the fact that it's okay for Iran to have a nuclear weapon, and I don't think that's very good. I think he's endangering a lot of Catholics and a lot of people.
The president recently said that the Pope is endangering a lot of Catholics. Is that a sentiment?
Well, I don't think that's an accurate description of what he said.
I'm not fighting with him. The Pope made a statement. He says Iran can have a nuclear weapon. I say Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon.
As if I was trying to debate, again, the president, which is not my interest at all.
The Pope has to understand that. This is the real world. It's a nasty world.
Well, today the White House dispatched a diplomatic envoy to the Vatican in an attempt to de-escalate tensions. Marco Rubio's visit lasted around 2.5 hours. The Vatican said they were cordial discussions. We'll have to find out if this version of papal diplomacy was a success. That's it from me and the team for tonight. Coming next, it's The Wrap, as polls are about to close in the elections.
I urge you not to look away. If Hamas hands the hostages over, they will end this conflict. The world has been watching. Good to see you again. How are you? Did she say how he was?
The conditions are awful.
The jets were ordered to come back. Historic day here today. How will you respond if India does launch airstrikes?
They'll be allowed to war.
I'm just going to put some body armor on. I'm Yalda Hakim.